Let's compare the service motions of Emma Raducanu and Maria Sakkari. Now, obviously, both of these players are incredibly talented, but I'll have to tell you that Sakkari's serve, for my money, is absolutely the better serve. Let's look first at the toss timing. If you don't know what toss timing is, it is measuring the height of the toss using a timer. And the way you do this for yourself is you just, when you film yourself serving, get the ball to the top of your head and then throw down a timer. And so let's actually do Maria first. So here's the ball at the top of her head. So we can throw down a timer and we can see how long it takes for her to hit the ball from this point. And for her, she is hitting the ball at 0.79, let's just round it up, 0.8 seconds. So that is well within the range of acceptability. I recommend to my students that they're somewhere between 0.6 and 0.9 seconds. So please go out and film yourself and check to see that your toss timing is correct, somewhere between 0.6 and 0.9. Now, if we look at Emma, we put the same timer down. Let's see how long it takes for her to hit. Now, right here, she's already at 0.8, and she's nowhere near the leg drive yet, or she was just beginning the leg drive. Let's look at her toss timing. Wow. Almost 1.1 seconds. Incredible how high Emma's toss is compared to Maria's. Now, what this does is for Maria, it actually helps her leg drive be coordinated correctly with her racket drop. See, what you want is the racket to be dropping as your body explodes up. Now, Maria is actually at the very end of this range of acceptability when it comes to where her racket is. The racket needs to be somewhere in this range for you to maximize the effectiveness of your leg drive. See, when you drive up with your legs, you want it to be the entire racket drop that benefits from this. And you can see when Maria begins driving up with her legs, that at that moment, the tip of her racket is pointing up at this time. So if we just draw a straight line across the top of her head, you can see that her head goes down to that yellow line. And then as she begins exploding up, the racket tip is pointing up. What this does is accentuate the racket drop. And as her body goes up and the racket goes down, she gets a tremendous shoulder stretch. And then that shoulder stretch is then used as energy to then snap the racket up over her shoulder. So anytime you're using leg drive, you want to make sure that your racket is somewhere in this range. For instance, Andy Roddick is here, right? Nick Kyrgios is here, and obviously Sakkari is here. You know who else is here? Roger Federer, right? So Roger Federer is kind of at the end of that range of acceptability where you want your racket to be when you begin exploding up. Now, because Emma's toss is so high, she has to stay delayed in her leg drive. She can't just explode up whenever she wants because that ball is out of the screen. As we can see, it's nowhere near within her reach. So she has to wait down in this loaded position for a very long time relative, to what Maria's doing. And what this allows for is the racket to begin to drop. And many people call this an early racket drop. I actually don't call it an early racket drop. I call it a late leg explosion because that's truly what's happening. It has nothing to do with an early racket drop. But watch her racket begin dropping with no leg drive. Again, we know there's no leg drive by drawing a yellow line at the top of her visor. So you can see her head or her visor goes down to that yellow line. Now right here, she needs to be exploding up. And even then she'd be a little late with her leg drive. But it's just the racket's dropping and we can see the racket is pointing back by the time she begins exploding up. So she is not in that range of acceptability. Again, her racket needs to be somewhere in here. This is Taylor Fritz. This is Riley Opelka. This is Grigor Dimitrov. Up here is Rafael Nadal and Novak Djokovic, Naomi Osaka. Again, there's this range, and the talk of the town right now is Nick Kyrgios. Nick Kyrgios is at that line right there. That's simply where the racket is when the leg drive begins. So Emma's leg drive is extremely late because because the toss was so high. So if Emma were to lower her toss, she could get her leg drive to be so much better and synchronized, and she would actually be able to get more racket speed because her racket would have a farther distance to go while her legs were driving up, which would accentuate the shoulder stretch and would actually be able to get her to serve faster. Now, the last thing I want to show you is this position right here. If I get them in a very similar place in their serve, we will notice something extremely important. Maria's racket is slightly closed. If her racket right now, if her racket face was a mirror, she would be reflecting the ground like way off to her left. Well, Emma's racket, if it were a mirror, it would be reflecting the clouds way in the distance. Maria's racket is slightly closed. Emma's racket is slightly open. What this means is that Maria's racket has a farther amount or more rotation that is required to contact the ball. And that long axis rotation and pronation is going to have to happen at a much faster rate. So not only is she tossing lower, which just forces her to swing faster, and she is driving up with her legs within the range of acceptability of where her racket is, both of which are going to help her to swing faster. But now she is going to snap that forearm and get the racket to snap up over her arm with a better technique because there's more rotation that is required. If you just think about where her strings are pointing, slightly down, to contact, let's just say she was hitting flat into the back of the ball, no spin. That is more than 90 degrees of rotation. That's greater than 90 degrees of rotation. If we look at Emma's racket, she has less than 90 degrees of rotation required, which means it doesn't have to rotate as fast. And this pronation and this long axis rotation is important because that's how you move the racket the fastest up over your hand. Well, because Maria's racket has a lot more racket speed here, her racket continues to pronate. Her forearm points, if we look here, her strings face off to the right when she is done. That is a proper supinated, meaning the strings are facing to the left, and pronated, after contact, facing off to the right, movement during her serve. Because Emma's racket, like from here to here, there's just no rotation going on. If she rotated, she would actually hit the ball against this fence, or like straight ahead. So she has to hold this angle. Her racket was too open too early. So now she doesn't get the forearm snap and rotation to really throw that racket over her hand quickly. So watch as she hits the ball, no pronation. Her strings after contact are just facing down, where Maria's are facing off to the right. This is a really important distinction, and this is, for Emma, something that I would hope her coaches are looking at as a way to improve. If you're not looking for ways to improve, I know she's a Grand Slam champion, but if you're not looking for ways to improve, other people are going to catch up to you. And having her strings face down like this, where you've got Maria's facing off to the right, Maria, I would say, is maximizing her athleticism with her serve. When it comes to Emma, Emma is not, let me make that red. I like to have color coded. Emma is not maximizing her athleticism with her technique. And you might say, yeah, but Ryan, she's the Grand Slam champion here. Well, I understand that, but at the same time, she's not maximizing. Maybe, her ceiling is much higher than what she's currently using with her technique. So if I were Emma's coaches, I would be lowering her toss. The moment she lowers her toss, she'll be able to use the leg drive at the right time. And then this is a really important thing. At this moment with her swing, she has got to have the racket slightly closed. She's got to work on this. If you look at John Isner at this point, his strings are facing even more down. And that just requires such a powerful long axis rotation and pronation into contact. So these are simple ideas. Even the pros make these mistakes. So go out and film your serve, work on these ideas, and you will improve your serve. Now, if you're looking for people in your local area to play matches against or practice with, or if you want to find a coach who's close to you who can help you with your game, use my link in the description and pinned in the first comment, playercourt.com/2-minute tennis. When you use my link to sign up, you get 50% off. So please go out and film yourself serving, review the footage, and make sure you are doing what you're learning here on 2-Minute Tennis. And if you do, there's no doubt you're going to gain confidence, win more matches, and play much better tennis. This is Ryan Reedy from 2minutetennis.net. You got this.